Nintendo Switch Online launched in 2018 and has since continued to expand, but with the introduction of the expansion pack, it's become much more expensive. So with all these additions over time, has the service truly improved? And more importantly, is it worth the price? Well, in this video, we're going to find out exactly that. So anyways, I'm Anton, and let's get started. For those who don't know, Nintendo Switch Online is a service that lets you play all kinds of games online. I mean, the name says it all, whether you're teaming up with friends or facing off against opponents around the world. So if you're into multiplayer games like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, or Mario Party Superstars, having this service is almost a necessity. And for games that heavily rely on the online features, like Splatoon 3, Super Mario Maker 2, or Luigi's Mansion 3, it's even more important because a lot of content is locked behind those online modes. In the case of Splatoon 3, it heavily revolves around multiplayer modes like Turf Wars, ranked battles, and even special events like Splatfests. Without an online subscription, you miss out on most of the action, limiting your experience to offline content, which the game isn't really focused towards, even though the single player is still pretty fun. But the game also regularly introduces new content and events tied to online play, making the service essential for accessing the full Splatoon 3 experience. But on the contrary, if you mainly play single-player titles like Super Mario Odyssey and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, apart from a few minor online features, you won't really need the subscription. If you're an Animal Crossing New Horizons player, you'll definitely want to consider getting the service, as there are a few features that are locked behind it, like visiting other people's islands, obtaining others' custom patterns, and gifting items. But if you don't care about these certain features, then it won't be too big of a problem. So how is the overall Nintendo Switch Online experience? Honestly, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Splatoon 3, and Luigi's Mansion 3 generally run smoothly, although occasional disconnections can still happen. Personally, I've rarely encountered lag with these games, which could be due to the way that they are designed and how the online infrastructure works. That said, the online infrastructure is still pretty limited. For many games, it seems like Nintendo relies on peer-to-peer connections, which can result in less stable connections depending on the player's internet quality. While this helps keep costs down, it can lead to performance issues like lag or disconnections, especially in competitive or multiplayer games. In my personal experience, Super Mario Maker 2, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Super Mario Party aren't the greatest experiences. Even if one player has a poor connection, it can cause lag for everyone, leading to a frustrating experience. And it's especially awful when you're playing a terrible course in Super Mario Maker 2 with 3 other players across the world. The recent Nintendo Switch OLED model does include an Ethernet port in its new dock, indicating that Nintendo is addressing this to some extent, which means unless you have an adapter or directly beside your router, you won't be getting the best connection at all times. Although over time, Nintendo has made some upgrades to their online system, but it's still not great. But overall, the Nintendo Switch Online experience is decent for playing popular titles with friends. But to have the best experience, make sure that you have a good internet connection. It's mainly the players that need the best connection. And it is quite annoying that online play is locked behind a paywall, especially considering that it was free during the early years of the Switch. It is worth noting that many third-party games require a Nintendo Switch Online subscription, such as Among Us and Minecraft. However, games like Fall Guys and Fortnite don't require it to play. Just check the eShop to see if the game that you're buying does require Nintendo Switch Online to play certain online modes and access other content. So enough of the online, let's talk about the free games. These games use the Switch Online service and don't cost anything. Well, maybe apart from some DLC. First, we have Super Mario Bros. 35. Wait, yeah, that's dead. You have Pac-Man 99, no, that one's also dead. What's left? Oh, F-Zero 99. This is a multiplayer online racing game, inspired by the original SNES F-Zero, in which you compete in remade courses that scream Mode 7. You'll race against 98 other players, keeping a close eye on your power meter as you boost, bash, and use spin attacks to gain the upper hand. You can also collect Super Sparks to zoom past rivals on the Skyway. This game is available exclusively to Nintendo Switch Online members, and offers a bunch of modes to keep things fresh. There's also Practice Mode, which lets you race against your own ghost to improve your skills. Customization is key here. You can complete challenges to unlock new colors, decals, and boost effects for your machine. Recent updates have added new leagues, like the Queen League and King League. There are also private lobbies now, so you can race with friends whenever you want. It's an excellent perk for owning Nintendo Switch Online, and is probably the best supported free game aside from Tetris 99, as it's the oldest surviving title from this NSO collection. Similar to F-Zero 99, you face off against 98 players, and try to survive the longest while sending blocks to other players, and destroying the blocks they send you, which gets challenging very quickly. Like F-Zero 99, this game features a ton of modes, such as Team Battle, where up to 4 teams fight for victory, and the last player standing wins it for their team. You can unlock new icons, and even themes through occasional Maximus Cup events, in which you try to earn enough points by playing rounds. The better you place in a match, the more points you'll get. Once you reach 100 points, you'll unlock the theme tied to that event, which can be applied at any time. These events are only for a limited time, so make sure you get the theme before it disappears, as it's unsure if older themes will come back. But there is a select amount of themes that you can redeem using your tickets. The game even got some extra content in the form of the paid Big Block DLC, as it includes a marathon mode, CPU battle, local arena, and 2-player share battle. And many of these added modes made it more of an offline experience, which is why the game got a really cool physical edition, meaning that this game is pretty much preserved. Anyways, moving on from the free games, let's talk about the other bonuses. Starting with access to the Nintendo Switch Online app that sits on the home menu. This is the place where you can view various announcements and other info tied to Nintendo Switch Online. I really don't visit this app, as I can find the announcements on the newsfeed anyways, but the only reason I ever visit this app is the ability to create custom user icons. With an active Nintendo Switch Online membership, you can use My Nintendo Platinum points to redeem parts for custom icons. You can get character parts, backgrounds, and frames based on different games, though some are exclusive to the expansion pack membership or require you to have played certain games. However, the rotation of these icon parts is a real pain, and it's frustrating because Nintendo's release schedule for these icons is pretty unpredictable. You could end up missing out on something that you really wanted, and it's not clear if or when it will ever come back. Sometimes icon collections are released alongside a game, but other times, random sets of icons will just appear out of nowhere. And of course, if you do run out of coins, it's really annoying. And the app itself isn't without its issues either. It can be quite laggy and unresponsive, which makes browsing through the icon parts and managing your collection more annoying than it should be. Oh, and I forgot to mention that sometimes you'll get access to game trials, which allow you to play a game for a certain amount of time. But sometimes different regions do get different titles, so do be on the lookout. Cloud storage allows save data for supported games to be synchronized online, so if you move your Nintendo account to a different system, or use multiple consoles, you'll be able to access those saves. If your subscription does run out, you will lose access to the cloud saves. But if you don't renew for 6 months, the save data will get purged. But not every game does use the cloud saves. Like many Pokemon titles, the Splatoon games, and Animal Crossing New Horizons. They've even introduced missions and rewards that give you the opportunity to earn Nintendo Platinum points by completing certain activities, so at least there's that. Oh, and you also get access to the Nintendo Switch Online app for mobile, which allows you to use voice chat in games, but it's extremely basic and I would just recommend using Discord or any other platform. I've only ever used it for the built-in game-specific apps, which exist for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and Splatoon 2 and 3. They are pretty cool, and the Animal Crossing one is definitely the most useful, as you can type on the phone and send messages in the game. Makes it way easier to type out messages when you're playing online. But now let's get to the Nintendo Switch Online legacy content, starting off with the base Switch Online service. The first app added was the Nintendo Entertainment System, which allows you to play a decent collection of NES games, from classics like Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda, and even Kirby's Adventure. There's a variety of games to choose, from both first and third party, and Nintendo has made an effort to include a lot of obscure games, like the mysterious Murasame Castle, Super Mario Bros. 2, aka The Lost Levels, and Earthbound Beginnings. It's complete with rewind and save states, but does lack many options, and this is a major complaint of all the NSO legacy apps, as you only have 3 basic display options, being 4x3, pixel perfect, and a CRT filter. You can't change the border, or even the controller inputs, so your controller inputs have to be adjusted to the Switch's system settings, and NES games online run really well. The next app to be introduced was the Super NES, and just like the NES one, it includes a fantastic selection of titles. From Super Mario World, Super Metroid, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, there's a lot of games to choose from. Nintendo's done a great job at adding games to this app, even including games that were never released outside of Japan. And like the NES app, you've got rewind, save states, and the exact same settings. Oh, and you might have noticed special versions of NES and Super NES games. And while these are just preloaded save states that drop you into a powered up scenario or right at the end of a game, unfortunately, these versions can't be hidden. But as of right now, it's only the NES and Super NES that has these. And again, like the NES app, online play with friends works great. The final legacy console included with the base service is the Game Boy app, which includes both original and color games. From The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening DX, Super Mario Land 2, and Kirby's Return to Dreamland, there's a decent collection of games to play here. Even Kirby Tilt and Tumble works with gyro controls. Unlike the NES and Super Nintendo collections, this one is severely lacking, as it's rarely gotten any new games, and many iconic Nintendo ones are missing here. So I'd like to see more get added in the future. Again, you have rewind and save states, but the Game Boy app does offer some unique filters, like the green display of the original Game Boy, the gray display of the Game Boy Pocket, and the color display of the Game Boy Color. You can also enable a more faithful LCD pixel look, and even make the screen smaller. But that's about it, as sadly there are no Super Game Boy features or additional color palette options, forcing you to rely on the Game Boy Color's default auto-applied palettes, making the Game Boy app feel inferior to other options. But online play between friends works great. But now let's jump into the expansion pack. This tier gives you access to 3 more libraries of content, being the N64, Sega Genesis, and Game Boy Advance. And you do get free access to some paid DLC, which we'll get to in a bit. The Nintendo 64 app gives you a decent collection of N64 titles. Nintendo's been adding games pretty consistently, so there's a pretty good library here. You've got classics like Super Mario 64, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and Mario Kart 64, just to name a few. The emulation has definitely improved since this app's debut, as there were many issues when it launched, but thankfully most of the bugs have been removed. But the emulation is still far from perfect, which is quite normal for N64 emulation anyways. But these games look great on the Switch. And with the added features like online connectivity and save states, the games are very accessible. Some games like Winback do not have support for the memory card pack, although widescreen features for certain games, like GoldenEye, do work great. However, Rewind is not available, but at least there's save states, so that's nice. When it comes to the N64 online connectivity, it's okay, but if you do have a lot of players from around the world, you can get some issues. At least that's what I've noticed when playing with 3 to 4 friends, but even one player's poor Wi-Fi connection can make the game slow down for everyone, which can make the audio sound a little strange. Nintendo also introduced a 17+ version of the N64 app on Nintendo Switch Online, which includes just a few games rated M. It's pretty amusing since there's just a few games here and it looks so empty, but due to age rating boards, it seems like this was the only way Nintendo could include these titles. Let's move on to the Sega Genesis, or Mega Drive, depending on where you reside. It is cool that Nintendo worked with Sega to bring these games to the service, but many of these games are available elsewhere, like the Sega Genesis Classic Collection, and other separate releases. And of course you have access to the same features and settings as the NES, SNES, and Game Boy emulators. And it's a lot of fun playing these titles with friends. And the last app to talk about, as of right now, is the Game Boy Advance. So far, Nintendo has built up an excellent library of many classics, like Metroid Fusion, The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap, and Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. And like the other apps, we've seen some Japanese and European exclusives make their way over, like Kurokurukurin and the Starfy series, although untranslated. Compared to the Game Boy and Game Boy Color app, the Game Boy Advance app offers a richer selection. It's frequently updated with new additions. Like the Game Boy app, it has excellent online connectivity with select games, and all the features are brought over from the Game Boy app, just without any of the Game Boy specific filters. The LCD look is pretty cool. It's also worth noting that the Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, N64, and Genesis libraries include regional versions of those games. Just keep in mind that PAL versions generally suffer from worse performance, with lower frame rates compared to their NTSC counterparts. By the way, if you create a Japanese Nintendo account, you can get access to the Japanese versions of these apps. And some of these do include exclusive games. They're just all in Japanese. There are also replica controllers available for all the legacy consoles, excluding the handhelds, which look really cool, and try to give you a modern, but classic experience. If you're a collector, or just want a bit of nostalgia, then these are pretty cool, but you do need the service in order to have the ability to buy these, but do be warned, as they are pretty expensive, and they're really just meant for their dedicated app. And for DLCs, you get access to the Animal Crossing New Horizons Happy Home Paradise, which gives you access to way more customization options and lets you design homes and resorts for clients, the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, which adds 48 courses across the Mario Kart series, and new racers, and the Splatoon 2 Octo expansion, which is a full single-player adventure where you play as an Octolink, with new challenges and missions, and puts your skills up to the test. But if your NSO subscription runs out, you'll lose access to these DLCs. So purchasing them separately when they're on sale is personally a good idea, if you want permanent access. But if you just want to try them out, this is a good way to do so. And also, if you're offline for up to 7 days, you will lose access to the DLCs, and even the legacy apps. So let's talk about the different plans. The first is the base plan, which costs $19.99 US per year, and is overall pretty affordable. It includes access to the NES, Super NES, and Game Boy game libraries, free online games, as well as online play for games, save data cloud backup, and exclusive deals like Nintendo Switch game vouchers. Oh, and I forgot to cover those, and they basically allow you to download 2 qualifying Nintendo Switch games for a set price of $99.98 MSRP, compared to a $120 sum of buying both games separately. If you're looking to just get digital games, it's honestly a pretty good deal, and most Nintendo games support this option. But now we get into the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, which is $49.99 USD per year. On top of the other systems, it gives you access to the Nintendo 64, Sega Genesis, and Game Boy Advance libraries. Plus, you get access to the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, Animal Crossing New Horizons Happy Home Paradise, and the Splatoon 2 Octo expansion. And you may even get some exclusive offers. For the best value, consider the family plan, which allows up to 8 members. The standard plan costs $34.99 US per year, averaging about $5 per person when all spots are filled. In comparison, the expansion pack is priced at $79.99 per year, which breaks down to about $10 per person with the same number of members. And honestly, it's a pretty good deal, as long as you can find 8 people, or enough people that you can split the price pretty low. And this is what I've been doing with a bunch of friends, and it's worked really well, as it's not that expensive, and you get access to so much. But if you don't want the expansion pack and just want to play a few retro games and get access to the online service, then I think the base subscription is probably the best. And you can always upgrade in the future. The service has definitely improved over the past few years. It feels like yesterday when the first expansion pack overview trailer became Nintendo's most disliked video of all time. Since the service launched back in 2018, it's definitely continued to improve, albeit slowly, but Nintendo has continued to add new games. But honestly, the service is pretty good now, even if the online play isn't perfect. But honestly, it should just be free. That's why to me, the service is about everything else. But in the future, I do hope Nintendo adds more systems, like Virtual Boy and GameCube, however that ends up working. And maybe we'll even see Game Gear, as that was on the 3DS Virtual Console. And hey, maybe Super Mario Bros. 35 will come back. Maybe it'll be Super Mario Bros. 40. I hope so. It's been a very long time. But anyways, that's about it for the video. I hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button to see future videos heading your way. What do you think of the Nintendo Switch online service? And what do you think is its future? Well, let me know. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.